Hey everybody, this is Matthew Movies coming at you with my review of the Santa Claus 3, The Escape Clause, the 2006 third movie in this series. And when I sat down to review all these movies, I knew I was going to get to this, and I knew I wasn't going to be enthused to check out this movie, and that was definitely true. I am not a fan of this movie, and I find that to be very disappointing because I actually feel like this movie had a great deal of potential. There was so many things I think that were going for it that could have made it at the very least a good movie, if not an excellent movie, and it really should have if they put more care into it, in my personal opinion. I mean, the elements that were great, you have Tim Allen returning to a series that you'd already grown to enjoy him in. Martin Short gets added to the festivities, and he's an actor who I adored in SCTV and Saturday Night Live and other movies. The whole concept of this movie, which if you don't know, basically the Santa Claus gets tricked into invoking the escape clause, and he goes back and he becomes Scott Calvin again, and Jack Frost tricks him and becomes the new Santa, and you get dropped into the world that you knew, but only in this timeline Scott never became Santa, and you see how that affected everybody around him, and things are gloom and doom and all that stuff, and you know, that's definitely a trope that I'll always enjoy seeing. So that was cool. I mean, time travel, alternate realities, seeing characters you already came to enjoy in different perspectives, I mean, all that's cool. They had the return of the holiday council or whatever they call it, which that was rad. I mean, there was so much going for it, but this movie, to me, is just awful. I find it to be very skin deep and superficial, and you can really tell that all of the people in it are trying their hardest to be funny, and none of them are succeeding. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just a complete and utter disconnect. I mean, like I said, Tim Allen returns to the character that he had played in the previous two movies, and I thought he was serviceable, I suppose. I mean, the situation that they dropped him in, I did not find entertaining at all. They have this whole thing where he's trying to convince his in-laws that they're in Canada instead of the North Pole, because he brings them up to the North Pole to be there while his wife is about to have a baby, and that whole thing. I mean, as a Canadian, I'm like, wow, nobody's gonna buy that. I mean, maybe they will, who knows, but it was a really one-note joke that they just went back to over and over again. Never was funny at all. I didn't think they gave him very many interesting situations. I felt that they went too far with how like terrible things were because he never became Santa, and the fact that they didn't even involve his son really in any of it other than like talking about him. They didn't get that actor back into this movie. I thought was a major downfall because he was such a core element of the heart of the previous two movies. So having that ripped out, I thought that was very disappointing. And like I said, they bring Martin Short into this movie, an actor who I just enjoyed in so many different things, but he is trying so hard. It's like Jiminy Glick got dropped into this. I mean, he's so over the top in this movie. And I mean, yes, sometimes that's what his comedic sensibility can be, and I've come to accept that from him. And there are times where I think that really, really works. And then there's other times where I've seen him give much more grounded performances. And if he'd given like a kind of like a mix of the two, like had some kind of actual emotion in this, and I know it was meant to be kind of like a family film or whatever, but I just found his characters be way over the top, and the problem too is, of course, there's no jeopardy because you know by the end of this movie things are all going to turn out okay. So his machinations are frustrating, and he's also just, you know, his character is not that intelligent. He gets tricked into invoking the escape clause himself, which is the way that whole thing plays out with the recording. I mean, that's just garbage. And then, like I said, they introduced this whole thing where Santa and Elizabeth, the character that, or not Elizabeth, that's the name of the actress, but basically the character that he married in the Santa Claus 2, they're about to have their baby, and as a result, the character that you saw him fall in love with in the previous film was such a major part of it. She's kind of put off to the side because her whole thing is just the fact that she's pregnant. She doesn't really have anything else to do in this movie except show up and be pregnant, and she doesn't have any kind of emotional range in this. I mean, other than the fact that she wants her parents to be there and she wants Scott to be there. I mean, to me, it was a very, very disappointing use of that character, and the way that whole thing played out. And you have the Scott's stepdaughter is brought back, the little redhead from the second film, who I thought was one of the better parts of that movie. And this, again, I really didn't care for how they wrote her character either. I thought the heart was lacking, and that to me is the biggest takeaway, I should say, from this movie. It's just the heart is lacking. I mean, the only positive thing I can say about this movie is I did think that the way they made Jack Frost look as Santa, I thought that was fairly well done. So kudos to them on the makeup chair. But other than that, I just, this movie just is not one I enjoyed by any stretch of the imagination, and just proves that, you know, sometimes you can take a concept and you can take it too far. And I definitely think they stretched out the Santa Claus trilogy, and they clearly didn't have a story that they wanted to tell, so they just threw a bunch of crap at the screen and made a movie that I think sucks. So those are my thoughts on the Santa Claus 3, the Escape Clause. I mean, if I was gonna give it a score out of 10, I'd probably give it like a 5 or maybe even a 4. It's just not a great movie. So let me know in the comment section below what you think, if you're a fan of it, if you hated it, whatever. Other than all that though, please hit that like button, hit that share button. It makes it much more likely that other people come check out this review, which would be awesome because I love talking to people about movies. And speaking of which, if you're new here or you just haven't done it yet, please hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you can find out when I put out a new video. Come check it out and give me that feedback because I love talking to people about movies and I'd love you to be one of them. Aside from all that though, have yourself a good day.